Welcome back to Thrills Locker Stories. Today I have some great ones all about not trusting your mind, your face, or your body. Please enjoy your stay in the locker as we move on to our first story. A Warning About Silence by Peter O'Shamseen. Everyone, regardless of their particular mental state, has a curious kind of background noise in their minds. When that noise takes the form of original music, we call it being a genius. When it sounds like voices, we tend to call it schizophrenia. A single voice is often referred to as religion. Most people go through their entire lives without ever being consciously aware of this omnipresent aural phenomenon, save for those in rare moments when it catches their attention. Perhaps they think they've heard their name being called out, or that they've been listening to the air rushing through the vents in their house. One way or another, though, the noise is there. You can hear it if you listen for it. Lie down in a quiet room and focus on clearing your mind. Mute your internal dialogue. Erase the scenes from your imagination and let yourself sink into silence. Before long, the whispers of that hidden soundtrack will become evident, then grow louder as you learn to recognize them. It could be that you'll find answers to questions you didn't even know you were asking. Or perhaps discover a sense of inner peace that had been lacking in your life. Some folks refer to this as meditation, even if they're mistaken about what's really going on. The truth, you see, is much less comforting. If you've ever gone walking in the woods, you've likely encountered a cacophony of noises, the songs of birds, the chirping of insects, and the quiet rustles of small animals rushing through the undergrowth become so commonplace that our minds tend to tune them out. What we notice, though, is what happens when a predator draws near. The chorus abruptly stops. The forest becomes deathly still. A person walking amidst that sudden silence might feel the hairs on the back of their neck start to rise, and notice their heart pounding with a mixture of adrenaline and dread. When you listen to the sounds in your mind, it doesn't matter what form they take. What matters is that you can hear them at all. As long as that clamor is present, you know that you're safe. All is well, even the most tumultuous of times. The danger arises when that noise seems to stop. When you suddenly experience the most potent silence that you have ever encountered. In that moment, you may start to feel as though you are being watched. After all, in that still forest, the predator is the quietest of all. Try it for yourself if you'd like. When next you are completely alone, imagine you are listening to a sound of some kind. When that sound seems to stop, you'll know that you've been noticed. Do you hear that? No? That's too bad. Good thing I'm here to fight off the silence. I hope you enjoyed that, because I've got an idea that you can really sink your teeth into. Here's your next story. Grinning. No author known. This morning, I stepped out of the shower and the bathroom was fine. White walls, white tiles, sink and counter with toothpaste crusted all over. 3 out of the 4 light bulbs over the mirror were still good. 100-watt, clear bulbs, blinding bright in the small white room. Like always, I was late, so I skipped shaving. She liked it when I didn't shave anyway. I was thinking about doing mutton chops. She'd get a kick out of that. I passed the mirror when I noticed I was grinning. I didn't even know I was grinning. I'm in the bathroom tonight before bed, and there's something wrong with the lights. All 3 are on again, but they glow kind of brown and don't really light up the rest of the room. I should get more bulbs from the kitchen. I should, but I'm busy. The date was shit, and she shut her apartment door on me. You'd think that would wipe off the stupid grin from this morning, but I came back to the bathroom and, in the mirror, my face was still doing it. If I touch my face, it doesn't feel like a grin, but there it is in the mirror. In the brown light, it's hard to make out, but have you ever actually counted how many teeth show when you smile? I lean in close. 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't know my mouth was so wide. 9, 10, 11. I can't do mutton chops after all. The corners of my lips are out to my ears. It still doesn't feel like a grin, but I keep counting for curiosity. 36, 37, 38. Next time you use the bathroom, don't look into the mirror out of curiosity. You won't like what I've done. I hope you don't get squeamish, because this next story will have your skin squirm, like you're full of worms that desperately want out. Here is a genuine trigger warning for trypophobia. You have been warned. Now on to your last story. Holes by CD62. It began slowly, innocuously, although the first appearance was quite sudden. There was no warning, no dent, it was just there. As if the small little hole had always belonged on my calf. As though it had always been there and always would. I first noticed it, and after a quick moment's inspections, I thought that I should visit the doctor soon. Then I went about my day and it promptly left my mind. The next time I noticed, I chided myself for not making an appointment and once more thought to do so. However, this time, it seemed fascinating, sickeningly so. On the outside of my left calf was this small, although rather too large, hole. It was perfectly circular and completely black. It was as if no light could penetrate it. I studied it for hours, twisting this way and that, trying to see if there was more. I even used a torch to try and find what the cause was. The hole was too deep to see completely into. What I could see was regular-looking skin, and the rest faded into shadow. There was no redness, no swelling, and no pain. Once I had satisfied my morbid curiosity, I went to the phone to call the doctor. But on my way, it slipped my mind. One moment I was striding confidently, if a little panicky, towards the phone. The next I stopped, paused, and wondered who I was going to ring. It seemed every time I saw it, I immediately remembered, but once it was out of my sight, it left my mind. This went on for a few days, then another began to appear. I could see a small dent perfectly circular, and watched as over a few hours it deepened. It happened imperceptibly. I was only aware of it if I looked away and back again. But curiously, each time I looked away, I momentarily forgot what I was looking at. They were completely erased from my mind. I can think of numerous times I glanced at my calf and saw nothing but smooth, slightly hairy skin. It was a week before I noticed them again. This time there were 7. They had taken on a slightly honeycombed shape. Thin walls of skin separated each one. I used a magnifying glass, but could not discern their cause. The only thing I was sure of was that they were there and they were not pores. When I next saw them, I was shocked and horrified. I counted 15, and what appeared to be 3 more. Their overall honeycomb shape became more apparent. I stared at them for hours, moving this way and that, seeing how they would react. They seemed to compress slightly if I stood, as though weakened, like they could no longer support my weight. I went to bed, troubled, but unsure of what. I had written down, "Call a doctor about your calf, now!" on a piece of paper, but when I looked at it again, the writing was scribbled out, obscured by thick black marks. When I awoke the next morning, I felt a strange sensation in my calf. Swinging out of bed, I glanced at the sheet and saw a yellowish liquid that had soaked into the sheet where my leg had rested. The residue seemed sticky, almost mucousy. The area around the holes had a sheen, and the skin was also coated. Counting, I found 34. I tried not to gag at the sight. The sensation returned, more uncomfortable than before. Quickly, I grabbed the flashlight and tried to see what it was, but I still could not penetrate the depths of those damn holes. I looked for something, anything that was thin and long. I noticed that as I walked, my left leg seemed to sink slightly as my weight was put on it, like a spring under pressure. Finding a thin needle, I carefully pushed it into one of the holes, slowly as to not accidentally stab myself. As it went deeper, the golden yellow liquid oozed around it, becoming thicker and faster flowing the deeper the needle went. Finally it stopped. However, I could not feel the tip. I could feel the sides of the needle, but nothing else. I pushed it further and felt something writhing. Slowly, ever so slowly, I pulled the needle from my flesh, dragging more of that disgusting goo with it. A slight smell of rotting fruit filled the air. Vile, but with a sweetness to it. As the needlehead left my flesh, I retched and vomited. On the end of the needle was a small, black worm wriggling as it died. As I watched the creature that had lived in my legs squirm, I realized what the sensation was. It was coming from each and every one of those holes. Something was inside them, something squirming, burrowing deeper. Shudders pulsated through my body as I tried not to vomit again. I stared at that tiny, dying creature, unable to look away. There was no time to think, only to act. I made my way to the kitchen and, grabbing a sharp knife, I sat down and set to work. First, I cut through the tiny pockets of skin, allowing the holes to become one. Then I dug out each and every one of the vile creatures. The deeper I dug, the more I found. Blood had begun to flow freely and fill the holes I had created. I limped to the bathroom, barely able to walk. As I sat on the side of the tub and grabbed the hose, I could feel them inside me. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, all gorging. Turning the water on, I rinsed the wound clean, clearing my field of vision. As the blood cleared, I saw them, a writhing mass living inside me. Occasionally, one would fall from the group and, squirming, be washed down the drain. At first, I used the knife to try and remove them, then my fingers. I felt something sharp bite into my hand. One of them had attached themselves to the tip of my index finger. With a shout of horror, I slashed it away from my flesh. I carefully cut until I found tissue. Then I began to saw, hacking away, trying to remove as much as I could. Clumps of those insidious things fell from my leg. My vision grew cloudy, and shooting stars of red and black flashed across my eyes. I knew I was going to pass out soon, but still I tried to work, faster and faster, trying to finish the horrific job. I remember breathing deeply, and then darkness. I awoke in the hospital. An untold amount of time had passed. A delivery man had looked inside my window to see if I was home and seen a trail of blood. He had called the police. I tried to explain my actions to the doctors. They didn't understand. There was no trace of those creatures, but I can still feel them. I feel them advancing, burrowing deeper and deeper, gorging on my flesh, thriving in my warm body. Soon, they'll burst forth. I have to stop them. Somehow, I will. Thank you for listening. I hope you survived this trip into my locker with all of the meat on your bones still attached. Please like and subscribe for more horror. My name is Thrill, and you've been listening to Thrill's Locker.